Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
Hey there, everybody, it's Dr. Roto. Get out the insurance cards, get out the copay. The office is open on a Saturday night. I'm here with Justin Daughtry talking about any given entry where we talk single and three max. And Justin, first time I've been watching the show for weeks, but it's first time we're working together. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, same here. Obviously, it's been a pleasure doing it with Danger, and I'm loving the opportunity to share and talk. And it's an honor to have you kind of leading the charge for me and us tonight.
It's my pleasure. So hopefully Trevor Hillstrom will join in. I mean, the man who won 100K just a couple of weeks ago. I asked him for a loan. I'm still waiting, Justin. That hasn't come through. And if Danger can find some time, maybe he'll join us, but he's on a little family vacation, so we wish him a good time. All right, so I know what we do on this show is we try to deal with single entry and three entry max. That's what I play every weekend. Is that what you play every weekend?
It is. I very often will play 5 to 7 single entry lineups with very small variations from the original. If I have extra time or I feel a little risky, I will enter some 20 max and maybe some very cheap 150 entries. But yes, my bread and butter is and has been one lineup, small variations, maybe if I even tickle the 3 entry contest.
All right, so before we get to the plays, because we have the cheat sheet, I learned how to download it. I'm very proud of myself. How much of a cash game mentality do you have with your lineups? Like, how contrarian does a single entry lineup need to be? Is it just one play? Is it two? Because I struggle with that because I'm a 3 entry guy, right? That's me. And I try to keep it close to the vest. But when I do that, I find I don't cash. Last week, I did really well because I took a chance. So thoughts on your process?
Yeah, so for the past several years, I've put together a spreadsheet with a bunch of different data points and a lot of different things that I feel are important to me. And it's proven to be fruitful over the long term. Obviously, anything short sample week to week, it could be up or down. But I really trust that data and I try not to deviate from the sheet. And ownership doesn't factor into the sheet at all. One of the things that I've tried to figure out the best way to say and put is with these type of contests, the word chalk has been used for years and years and years, and has often got a bad connotation that you don't want to play chalk and so forth and so on. And in larger field tournaments, that is true. But to get specific to answering your question, ownership really doesn't factor into my decision-making process at all. I just want to make sure that I am playing the best players at each position that fit into salary, regardless of their ownership. Very rarely, will I deviate from that because someone's 40, 50% owned. If they're on my sheet, I feel like they are there for a good reason, chalk or not chalk. Chalk's not necessarily a bad or a bonehead play these days because the industry in general is so sharp. Chalk just means most often than not, it's a statistically good play, at least for median outcomes.
I think I need to listen to that more because I think I'm so concerned about avoiding the chalk or ownership or, so for example, I mean, let's get to your sheet here. Mm-hmm. We've got guys, for example, McCaffrey, Jaylen Warren, Chase Brown, Trey McBride, Jacoby Brissett. They are going to be highly, highly owned. I mean, most of these people on this sheet, and that's not disrespecting the sheet in any way, shape, or form, this is a sheet that has a lot of ownership. How do you become different with this sheet? What's the way to be different to take down a single entry tournament?
Yeah, well, so it's a little bit like in other sports, you can have this large chain from some large provider that gives these core plays and these these projections, and you get these large trains, mostly in cash games. I don't really see that very often. Yeah, there's some lines that match up, but I mean, with all the positions that you have to fill, even if you sprinkle in, let's just say, all but one or 20, 30% or more owned, the likelihood of you matching exactly with so many different people is still pretty low. For instance, before the sheet came out, I have my brother and another close friend that I gave access to the sheet, and not this cheat sheet, but the actual Excel document. And like once out of 3 years, I think either one of us had the exact same lineup. And, you know, the cheat sheet here technically condenses the spreadsheet down even smaller. And, you know, we haven't matched. So I know it's probably not exactly the answer you're looking for. There's no real strategy to it. I just play the best plays according to the metrics that I get. And, you know, I don't try to get different. I don't make an effort to deviate anywhere.
No, I think it makes a lot of sense. So it's basically putting the pieces of the puzzle together the best way you know how. So let's kick off at quarterback. I'm just going to give you a name or two that I don't see. I don't see Joe Flacco here. Is that because the Bengals are 21 points?
Yeah, so the game total and the team total does factor in. The matchup for the quarterback in that game is actually relatively decent. I feel like I saw there was a little bit of win potential in that game. Where am I? Yeah, 18, maybe over 20. So, you know, maybe that factors into it. 3 touchdowns is what Vegas expects. You know, Chase Brown been playing better the last few weeks. Perhaps he gets one of those, maybe even 2 of those. And then Joe Flacco with 1 touchdown thrown and, you know, 200 and some change. You know, the targets and volume that Chase gets is easier for him to pay off. But as you know, passing attempts and yardage less than 250 yards really isn't anything game breaking. At 5,500, he's not much more, but he's more expensive than Brissett. He's more expensive than McCarthy, only by a little bit, and it factors all of that stuff in. So you may be right. The 3 touchdowns, a little bit of weather, and you know that sort. And Chase Brown, I think, being a relatively good play as well, may be the reason why he doesn't make the sheet. And just to further that point one more time, I apologize. There are a few guys just outside or on the bubble of making the sheet. He's relatively close, but not as close as you might would expect.
Who else is on the cusp? We didn't hear you, Justin. Who else was on the cusp of making the sheet?
Yeah. Sure, yeah. I'm sorry. It did break up just a little bit. So a funny play that I did mention last week, which was a slightly better spot, Davis Mills is 2 spots off of making this sheet. And I know that's kind of crazy, but I said it last week almost in a joking manner. And he scored, I don't know, 27 fantasy points or something. But he's just off the sheet. Josh Allen, very expensive, but he's just on the bubble. And Purdy and Stafford are kind of like the next 4 or 5 guys that did not get to the cheat sheet.
So when I'm looking at this sheet, here's what I'm trying to do mentally, and you tell me if this is what other people who are watching should be doing as well. So I'm looking at Justin Herbert, and then I'm seeing where else. So I see Herbert, Gadsden, and I see ETN. Should I be thinking that way in my mind? Should I be thinking correlation as I'm looking at each quarterback, how that fits with your sheet, or can I play them as standalone plays?
Yeah, so I'm trying to see what's wrong with the internet. I broke up a little bit more again there, so I apologize. But when you're trying to analyze the quarterbacks and you look at the other positions, what is exactly you were saying? Sorry to make you repeat yourself.
No. What I'm saying is, so I'm looking at Justin Herbert, for example. I'll start with him. I see that the other Charger you have is Gadsden, and I see you have ETN. In my mind, is that the correlated play for Herbert? Or do you say, I want individual plays, I don't care about correlation? How important is correlation to this sheet?
Yeah, so I'll be honest. When I've tried to, let's just say, outthink the sheet and correlate and do a game stack or bring back on the other side, it's bitten me. But you are correct in the first part of that. Herbert and Gadsden would definitely be a decent pairing if you're looking to do that. The bring back with ETN is certainly fine, but It's not something that I would be trying to force.
Okay, so we don't force the correlation. I get that. I mean, I think that's a thing in the old days, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we wanted to correlate lineups as much as possible, and now it's not necessary. Let's focus a little bit on. Go ahead.
I certainly do think that correlation is important when you're more risk adverse, but when you're just trying to make sure you're getting the right plays, the correct plays, it doesn't really factor into my process.
Got it. Let's look at Jacoby Brissett, because the easiest clicks to me this weekend: Brissett, McCaffrey, McBride. Right? It feels that way.
Yes, I was talking in my Discord with someone else, and the cheaper tight end options haven't really been popping out to me since like week 4 or 5 or so, which I normally like to play. And paying up at tight end, not a lot of people do it, but with McBride, you get crazy ceiling from that. It differentiates where you're already going to be looking when it comes to spending money elsewhere. So yes, I do agree that McBride at tight end is a great play. Obviously pairing with Brissett. I'm a 49er fan when speaking about McCaffrey, so I'm a bit biased. And then even worse, I played him last week and it did not work out in my favor.
Let me ask you something here that I was toying around with just to get a little different. And you could say, Doc, don't do it. Stick to the sheet. I was thinking of taking out Brissett and putting in Brock Purdy instead and doing a Purdy, McCaffrey, McBride just to be a little different.
Yeah, so you definitely would get different there. There's a lot of questions about Purdy and whether he even should be starting above Mac Jones. Is he fully healthy? I was seeing practice videos being shared, saying that he wasn't, throwing off his back foot and he was airing passes and stuff. So it would definitely make you different.
All right. So how do we avoid, if we go with, let me change the question. And we welcome Trevor Hillstrom. We trust in Trevor, my man who's won a lot of money in DFS over the past month. So how do I think it feels like we're going to need at least 3 players. And this is for both of you guys. We're going to need at least 3 players to put up 30 points this week in order to take down a tournament. But it feels like JSN, Puka, Chase, McCaffrey, they're all really expensive. How do we manage that with our lineups, Justin? Do we have to go cheaper running back, or are you willing to go expensive running back and cheaper mid-priced receivers?
So my internet has been really ridiculous, and I hate that I missed a lot of that, but I did hear your last question. And the last few weeks, expensive wide receivers have been popping more on the sheet for me. Whereas normally there's maybe 1 or 2 guys above high 7s and 8Ks. In the last few weeks, there's been a lot. So I do think it makes you have to figure out where to spend the money because you obviously can't play them all. I personally prefer to get my expected value with cheaper running backs because their touches are guaranteed.
Trevor, same question to you. We need 3 guys who are going to put up 30 points, maybe a guy who's going to put up 40. We've got 3 receivers who could do that easily, maybe even 4. We got a couple of running backs who can do that. How do you approach it?
Yeah, I agree with Justin there. I think the running back is the easiest spot to get cheap because we know they're going to get the touches, and I think we want those big receivers, especially in that Rams-Seattle game where I think they're going to duel it out. And I've done some lineups where you can get both Najigba and Nacua in and feel comfortable at running backs too.
Well, let's talk about that. The first reaction is to get Warren and Brown in, right? It feels like that is the easy click so we can get 2 expensive receivers in. Justin's going to tell me, Doc, stick with the sheet. Don't get cute. Don't worry about ownership. Trevor, how do we stay out of that trap, or do you not worry about that?
About the ownership? I don't worry about the ownership at all.
So you'll put Warren, Brown, JSN, and Chase in a lineup, and you'll figure it out after.
Yep, that's what I've been doing. Not sticking with his sheet. I know we want to stay with the sheet. I've been using too much DeMarcado, but DeMarcado is more of a GPP play. maybe not for much of this, what we're doing in this single last entry or late entry.
Justin, were there any other names at running back who were just off the list that you almost put on there?
Yeah, and sorry for what it may have appeared like on your end, but I do think I got my internet fixed. But very great question. So Jacobs, touchdown favorite, really great matchup. He just missed the cut, and Aaron Jones as well. And even with a disappointing week last week, Woody Marks with Houston is also the next three that did not make the cut.
Trevor, you still in on Woody Marks? Because I know you were on Wednesday night when we were doing lineups together.
I still like him. I'm just a little worried. Thinking back to last Sunday, the Texans were playing from behind right from the jump. They were down 16 points right away, and that means Marks has to be in more. If they get ahead on Tennessee, does that mean that Chubb's going to get more carries and get more carries than he had last week? Because Chubb wasn't really used last week at all. But if they're ahead, I can just see that coaching staff sticking with Chubb a lot more than I would like. So them are things you got to worry about. I know on this sheet, nobody's taking carries away from Chase Brown and Jalen Warren.
Right. Now, Justin, you mentioned that Aaron Jones was on the cusp. Do you like a McCarthy, Jones, Jefferson type of play? Because that game could explode a little bit, or does that feel like one too many Vikings?
I mean, for what we're doing, I do think it's one too many, especially on a larger slate like the main slates that we typically go over. 48.5, I believe. I didn't see a total, at least live, over that, and 25.5 points for them as a team. So you're figuring 3 touchdowns, 3.5 touchdowns. I would make the guess that that's probably 2 for McCarthy, 1 for Aaron Jones, as long as it doesn't get vultured, which someone actually pointed out to me. I didn't even pay attention to Mason's price, but he's actually more expensive than Aaron Jones is on DraftKings. So I think that maybe it was a mistake. I don't know, but I do think that 3 of them on that offense, McCarthy had a pretty rough game last week and only kind of salvaged his day with some late stuff. So, don't know what this week will hold, but I think playing the McCarthy and the running back and a wide receiver, especially Jefferson at his price, might be a little overextending.
All right, I'm going to get to the receivers last. Let's talk tight ends. There seem to be 4 on this list. I would think on the cusp that didn't make it may have been Theo Johnson. Am I right about that, Justin, or no?
Yes, and he may have been higher, but I think there's, kind of some uncertainty. Obviously we fantasy players love when Winston is at quarterback, and we love to watch his in-game personality and all that. And people or quarterbacks that aren't familiar with the offense, don't play, start all the time, do tend to have a safety blanket. Typically that's the tight end. Maybe it's checkdowns to the running back, but not on this team. But yes, you are correct. Theo Johnson is 2 off the cutoff point on the sheet.
Who was 1 off?
Kittle was there, and then Fannin was just behind Theo.
Interesting. Trevor, I know we loved Trey McBride earlier this week. When you look at those tight ends, is it McBride all day for you, or were you willing to play Gadsden or Pitts or Jonnu or Theo?
Well, it depends on where you're going with receiver. If you're going to pay down more with Chase and Jefferson, you can get McBride in a lot easier. If you're going to go with Nakua and Najigba, you kind of got to shy away from McBride in a lot of senses, unless you're really going to go with that DeMarcado in one of these tournaments. But for this sheet, it's just going to depend on how you're going to play your receivers.
All right, let's take a look. We mentioned receivers. Let's get there. So, Justin, I mean, this game, you've got 2 heavyweights. As Trevor called it as 2 Titanic. This is the Mary Mac and the Monitor, right? This is big stuff right here. JSN and Puka. Can we play both? Would you feel comfortable playing both, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're both stud wide receivers. I have a metric that I haven't referenced in a while, but fantasy points per game if you take away the touchdown scored. And they're both, right up there. I'm not looking at it, but I would dare say like 1 and 3. So they can get their value even off of volume without having to have touchdowns in a game that's probably going to be a shootout with, lots of firepower. So if you could play 2, I do think it's those 2 just because the game environment, their production minus touchdowns, so forth and so on.
Trevor, you're my resident Viking fan. Is Justin Jefferson somebody who's high on your list this week?
Well, yeah, he's high on my list because I think that I have a gut feeling. I always pick against the Vikings when I don't like them, so I really rarely pick them heavy. But I think they're just going to pound the Bears tomorrow. I really do. So I'm all in on the Vikings again this week. McCarthy did fail a little bit last week, but he did get 16 points. I know some of that came late, but Baltimore's a much better defense than Chicago. Chicago's defense flat out stinks.
They do. All right. We were on Trevor earlier this week. I know the 2 names we mentioned at first look was Shakir, and I'm glad to see him on this. We also had Christian Watson instead of Romeo Doubs, but we did have a Green Bay receiver. Are you still, Trevor, in on Shakir and the Green Bay receiver?
Yeah, so one of those receivers is going to pop, and it could very well be Dobbs. I was just using Watson just because of his lower price, and he has that bigger he's more of a GPP play, Watson is. Dobbs would be more of what we're doing here because Dobbs, I think, will get the more volume, the more looks, where Watson has the bigger play but the more risk.
Right. Justin, let's talk about that. We love Shakir, zone against Tampa. We love it, especially with no Kincaid. We liked Watson because Watson against man coverage we thought might fit better, but I'm not going to say that Dobbs is not a great spot. Was Watson under consideration as one of your cheaper receivers this week?
Watson didn't really hit my radar. I would just dare, break it in this way. Dobbs was, around 6th, whereas Watson was around 20 some. And I think, to Trevor's point, we know what target share is like for Dobbs, and it's much better for floor as well as a ceiling, and that's why I think it likes him more.
Which receivers, because I want to get to the Arizona ones in a second, who just missed out on your list, Justin? Who were the next few names that we missed?
So the names that did not make the list is Rice, London, Metcalf, and Nico.
It's funny you said about Nico. I really like Nico this week. Now let's talk about Metcalf. What do you guys, let's start with you, Trevor, first. The whole Cincinnati is good against number 1 receiver things. Are you buying into that, or do you think DK can make it good this week?
Well, DK's overdue. I mean, he just is, but he hasn't done it. And Rodgers really likes his tight ends, and the tight ends really do well against the Bengals. And they got 3 tight ends that they've used last game against the Bengals. He didn't really do that well. But he's so cheap that, it won't take him much to break, to get to really 5x values here. So he's going to be hard for me to get in my lineups, but he's going to be more of a GPP play.
Justin, talk to me about Metcalf, because I think there is that whole narrative going around. Jonnu made your list. Cincinnati's terrible against tight ends, but as Trevor said, you've got Jonnu, you got Pat Freiermuth, you got Darnell Washington. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, we better pick the right guy.
Yeah, so unfortunately my internet still can't seem to get stable, I don't guess. But Metcalf was much higher on my sheet on Thursday when I initially ran it. And after playing Metcalf a couple weeks ago and it not working, I wasn't really excited about it. Thankfully, when I reran it today, he was lower on that list. As far as the carousel at tight end, that is definitely hard to pinpoint. I wish we could gain some more clarity there. But we've seen Jonnu, get it done not only here, but also in previous offenses he was on. He was more than just a traditional tight end. He could get large amounts of catches, yards, and obviously touchdowns as well. And $2,900, I think, is what bodes the best for him.
I wanted to ask you both guys a question. We see Bijan on this list. We see Pitts on this list. We see Rico Dowdle on this list. Justin just mentioned Drake London, but we don't see Michael Penix on this list. I know he kind of stinks, but Trevor, is he possibly in play and roll him out with, a couple of other Falcons?
No, not for me. I just can't get there. I mean, if he beats me, he beats me. I just can't, I'm not going to shy away from McCarthy. I'm not going to shy away from Brissett. And I really like this list with Herbert and Rodgers on there too. I mean, I'm just not going to get the Penix, especially, if you got Bijan. I know Bijan can do a lot of it through the air too. I mean, that's where he really has his big weeks, is when he gets them 6 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. But yeah, I'm just not going to get the Penix.
All right, Justin, I want to talk about the Arizona wide receivers. Michael Wilson's going to have huge ownership, but he's always been a disappointment from the day he came onto that team from Stanford. He's never been great. Dortch is not the biggest dude. Is he like 5'7", 5'8", 180 pounds or something like that? But they use him like a Deebo Samuel type. Wilson is going to be highly rostered, highly owned, Dortch less owned. Is there one that you prefer?
So when I started to make the cheat sheet and I was looking at it, Michael Wilson was definitely above Dortch. And I almost wrote Michael Wilson, and I looked just 2 or 3 spots down and Dortch was there. And that's why I decided to put Arizona wide receiver. Dortch, $3,300 is cheaper. They're not very far off in my projections. It's a great matchup. I would lean Dortch because he's cheaper, not because he's the Deebo Samuel type player. Although, getting targets and carries is definitely beneficial. He's cheaper, has the same floor, has the same ceiling, and he's actually, I can't remember, it was the first of last year or something, where he definitely went off for some big, deep shots as well. So all of those factors lean me towards Dortch. Ownership isn't the reason, but it certainly helps.
Trevor, I remember you mentioned Dortch on Wednesday. Are you in on Dortch? Or are you in on Wilson? Or are you going to pass on both?
You know what? I'm in more on Dortch because when I'm building my lineups, when I use Dortch, I can get Najigba, Nakua, McBride, Warren, and Brown all in there, and McCarthy. You're going to be scrambling a little bit on defense and flex, but I'll worry about that later.
Right. You're able to put in pretty much what you want by getting Dortch in there with a cheap defense and a cheap quarterback, right?
Well, yeah, because McBride can kill this slate so easily, especially with Harrison out and the way Brissett's playing. With Brissett, all these guys that are receivers for the Cardinals are, I forget what I've seen with Kyler Murray. I'm done with that guy, So with Brissett, I just feel I have that much more confidence playing those receivers like Dortch and even Wilson. I just have more confidence in all the Cardinal weapons.
All right, I'm going to ask a question that may sound sacrilege this week. Does McBride fail if he doesn't score a touchdown? Let's say he goes 7 for 80 and doesn't find the end zone. He gets us 15 points, which is great. It's 2x, Justin, but I know you don't care about ownership, but some people do out there. Is it leverage not to play McBride and take the shot that he doesn't score a touchdown?
I don't. Failing would be what? Less than 15 points. I know 3x, 4x, and all these things people look for. Failing would be getting under 15, and I think that without a touchdown, he certainly can get there because of the volume that's going to slide his way. He's not going to get all of what was left behind, but he will certainly get some of that. And I think that it is a risk. I have never had success paying up for tight end. Never is a bit of a stretch, but it certainly feels that way. So I'm on the fence about it. But I do think that at 6,300, I mean, he's going to get you, 12, 14 at a minimum, which isn't what you want, but I don't think it's failing either.
Trevor, is it failing if McBride gets me 15 or 16 points? Because I could have pivoted to Gadsden, who's going to get me 12 to 14.
Well, yeah, it probably would be a fail if he's at 15 points. I just don't think he's going to score 15. But I mean, them are the chances you have to take. If he gets 20, which I think he's going to get, you're going to fail by not playing him.
So you have a greater chance of failing by not playing him than by fading than playing him.
I think so, because he's got to get a ton of targets in this game.
All right, I know Danger likes doing this. I like doing it. Let's come up with a lineup for people. Let's see if we can put something together here. So let's start out at quarterback. Gentlemen, I leave it to you. You want to start, Justin? I don't know. We'll all talk about it and see who we like together. Who's your first on the sheet, Justin? Who are you leaning to as of 9:36 Eastern on Saturday night? All right, maybe he hasn't heard me. Trevor, give me who you like as your
Sorry,
first. Okay.
I feel embarrassed with the internet. For some reason, I can't get it to stable out. And I didn't hear your question. I know you were moving on to the lineup. I apologize.
Let's do a lineup together. Let's talk quarterback. Who would be your first choice at quarterback? And we'll try to come up with a lineup we all agree on. Who do you like at quarterback?
Yeah, I think that McCarthy would be the quarterback that I would go with. It's a very good toss up between him and Brissett. And Brissett has McBride, but I think McCarthy has more weapons to choose from. So he would be the quarterback that I chose.
Trevor, who are you choosing between JJ or Brissett?
Well, it's really 50-50 for me. I'm making lineups with both, because with Brissett, I'm finding that I'm getting McBride and the receiver with, like Dortch or with Wilson, and with my other builds with McCarthy, I'm really just playing Jefferson. So it just depends on who I'm playing at wide receiver, and that's just how it goes. I mean, my lineups that I'm doing Jackson Smith, Najigma, and Puka Nacua, I'm mostly going with Brissett, because I'm pairing him with the two weapons. I'm getting McBride and one of his receivers in there.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do two lineups. One we'll do with McCarthy, one we'll do with Brissett for everybody out there. All right, let's get to our running backs. Assuming we're doing the Brissett one first, is McCaffrey a must in that lineup? Justin, is he a must? Trevor, is he a must?
I don't think McCaffrey is a must.
Go ahead. So you don't in a Brissett lineup, you don't think McCaffrey's a must?
You know, a lot of okay, and he didn't pay it off. So I would look elsewhere for now, and then see what you have later in the lineup.
Okay, so is McBride a must in a Brissett lineup? Can we just put that one in?
I think so.
I agree. And if we're doing a JJ lineup, let's put Jefferson in, because we want to have that correlation. All right, Trevor, give me, if we're doing either of these lineups, what running backs are you looking at? Are you saying Brown and Warren in both?
Well, Warren for sure. Warren's my favorite back on the slate, but my favorite plays failed the last few weeks. But I can't imagine Warren failing against the Bengals, but this football's a wacky game. You never know. But if I die with Warren, that's how I die this week.
All right. So let's get back to the question that I asked Justin that he didn't hear me. Do you think McCaffrey is a guarantee
No.
in the Brissett lineup?
No.
Okay.
Because here's the problem I have with playing. I'm just not on McCaffrey this week. It's hard for me because I want to play those big receivers.
Got it.
And I've got this value sitting here right in my face here at running back between Warren and Brown.
Okay.
I'm gonna have some single entry lineups that are gonna have DeMarcado. He's scoring 15 points this week. I'm banking it.
If Bam Knight is out, DeMarcado scoring 15 points guaranteed. Guaranteed. Yeah. Because I don't think we've seen his receiving chops, Trevor. I think there's more receiving chops there.
this guy is going to have a lot of receptions this weekend because Harrison's out. So I don't think the optimizers are fully aware of that, and these optimizers that we're running are running with Bam Knight in there. I think Bam Knight's going to be phased. I mean, they've got Bam Knight ahead of DeMarcado in a lot of the simulators.
Yeah.
Forget that.
Give me your 3 receivers right now. So let's do the Brissett lineup. So which 3 would you be thinking in the Brissett lineup?
Najigba, Nakua, Arch.
All right. Justin's back. Justin, you hearing us? We got to call Greenville Xfinity and figure this out here.
I mean, I'm not 100%. Yeah, I know. It hasn't really happened on any show before, and the time I get you, it definitely doesn't want to play nice, and I'm not 100% sure what it is, but
it's okay. So, Trevor,
where have we made it in the lineup?
So we're doing the 2 lineups, the Brissett lineup and the McCarthy lineup. So now we're on the Brissett lineup, and Trevor's going to fade McCaffrey, go with Warren, who he thinks is a must. Is Warren a must for you?
Pretty much, yes. Him and Chase Brown both are. And I think with Chase Brown, you haven't seen another running back take, meaningful plays and red zone opportunities away from him. And you've seen Gainwell do that a little bit with Warren. I don't think it's a problem or a factor this week, but that's just my slight lean Brown over Warren. But yes, Warren is going to be in a majority, if not all, of my single entry lineups.
Now, to finish that up, Justin, Trevor, I asked him which 3 receivers he would put into a Brissett lineup, and he said JSN, Puka, and Dortch.
Yeah, you get no argument with me from that. You get the 2 guys we talked about that you could jam in, and then Dortch is a great value, and Brissett is his quarterback. So I think it's perfectly fine.
So now we've got on this lineup, and we'll do a McCarthy one, we've got about $3,000. Just for argument's sake, I'll put in the cheap Titan defense, just for argument's sake, which gives us $3,800. Are you comfortable with a lineup like that, guys? Is that where you take a risk at 3,800? Trevor, I mean, what would you do differently?
What would I do differently? I'm trying.
Or is that fine by you? You'll look for a $3,800 guy and you'll figure it out.
Or do we pay down at one of these receivers and put in a Jefferson or a Chase? If you put Chase in over one of these receivers of Nakua or Najigba, you can get up to Pitts in your flex.
I could get up to Pitts in my flex, and that might be the move. Justin, do you agree with that? If we drop down from Puka to Chase, we get Pitts in there, and we've nailed that lineup. Agree or disagree?
Agree. And to just answer your question, if I saw that price point, I would certainly lean to what Trevor did and make a small pivot because no other people popped on my sheet for that price.
And that's what I love about what Justin said. If he sticks to that sheet, he sticks to his data, and he wants to put it in. All right, so that lineup right now is Brissett, Warren, Chase Brown, JSN, Jamar Chase, McBride, Dortch, Pitts, and the Titans. Can we win with that lineup?
Why not? Yeah.
I certainly believe so.
I'd certainly believe so too. All right, let's do a JJ McCarthy lineup real fast. Do we want to keep the same running backs, Justin, in that lineup? Do you still stay with Warren and Chase Brown?
I think it's perfectly fine, yes.
Trevor, would you still want to stay with those guys, or do you want to explore somebody else?
They're my 2 favorite backs on the slate.
Okay, so we'll stay with them. So we got JJ, Warren, Chase Brown, and Justin Jefferson. Trevor, give me a couple more receivers that you'd want to add there.
I got to put them in real quick. McCarthy, and we got We're putting in Jefferson for sure, right?
Correct, in the McCarthy lineup.
Now, who do you think is the best option between Nakua and Najigba? So we took We took Nakua out of the last one, right, and put left in the Jigba in there.
If you're asking me, I think it's JSN.
The best out of the.
I would agree.
Me too. So I really want JSN because I think he's going to be 30 points in this game. I mean, because they're going to any game that he's been needed to play it a full game, he's pretty much done it.
Right. I mean, he barely plays in half of these games. They like pull him out and they only run him sometimes. So
last week he scored 20 points. And
right.
They didn't need him. The week before, 25. They didn't need him. The week before, they
So
kind of need him. 29.
Are we sticking with McBride in this lineup? Because if we do, on this lineup, because McCarthy's a little more expensive, we have McCarthy, Warren, Brown, Jefferson, JSN, McBride, and I left Tennessee, but you have 2 spots open, $4,000 for another receiver and another flex. Or do you pivot out of McBride, or is that too dangerous, Justin?
I don't think it's too dangerous, no. And I think with the 2 comparing lineups that we're making, McBride made perfect sense in the Brissett lineup. And I think in this scenario, you probably don't have the funds to fill those last 2 spots with them in there.
Agreed. So would you pivot to Pitts or would you go to Gadsden?
I would probably play Pitts over Gadsden because, I don't know that the range of outcomes floor to ceiling is too different from there, and the $600 could be used elsewhere.
Fair enough. So Trevor, we have right now McCarthy, Warren, Brown, Jefferson, JSN, Pitts, and we've got about 5,100. Do we want to get Shakir in there? Who do you want to get in there?
I like Shakir a lot myself.
If we put Shakir in there, which I love too, we have 5,000, which is perfect for Romeo Dobbs. Look at that.
Yep.
Yes. Like it was planned.
ESPN was liking that right there too. That's perfect timing. So
what do you think of that?
That lineup is McCarthy, Warren, Brown, Jefferson, JSN, Shakir, Pitts, Dobbs, and Tennessee. Like it, guys?
I can't punch any holes in it.
It's kind of scary when we both when we have 2 really good lineups.
Well, and we had a couple of mediocre outcomes from these, middle of the road. We've had one excellent one like 3 weeks ago that was pretty big. I'd love to, right the ship and get some 10, 20x returns on one of these 2 lineups for the listeners.
I think it's possible. Trevor, if you had to pick one, are you rolling with your Vikings or are you going to roll with the Brissett? I don't hear you.
That's why, because I muted. I'm at a hotel and there's kids screaming in the hallway.
Don't they know we're doing a podcast? Come on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I got my kid. He's pretty quiet. I can't believe that. Well, he did enough screaming at the hockey game. We just got back from the Wild game. But I like the one with Brissett the most because it's got McBride and it's got both JSN and Nakua. And if I'm going to play Brissett, I'm really comfortable with the Dorchett receiver. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just why I like the Cardinal one better.
Justin, if you had to choose, you mentioned McCarthy. Do you like the McCarthy one better?
That's surprising from Trevor being a Viking fan, but I guess he knows more about him than anyone else. I mean, the ceiling with the lineup he chose, as well as the floor. I mean, I couldn't argue with him, but for the sake of the show and sake of content, I think I'm going to stake my claim on the McCarthy lineup.
That's fair enough.
I'll let you know, there's no allegiance to the Vikings when it comes to winning money in DFS, none whatsoever. The first big tournament I ever won was a Baltimore stack against my Vikings, and it went to overtime, and I was going from 1,000 to winning first place to 20,000 each possession. I was rooting for Baltimore.
Well, I love these lineups. They're spot on. And I love that we stayed true to your sheet, right? We didn't have to deviate. Yes. We kept to the sheet, kept to the data. And that should make us rich friends come tomorrow night about 9 p.m., right?
I like it. We've recently became friends. Rich fans will just be icing on the cake.
Exactly. That's pretty funny. All right. So we hope you enjoyed any given entry. We hope you enjoyed the sheets got to go away. but Justin doesn't go away and Trevor doesn't go away. And we'll be back next week. And we wish you much luck. And remember, tomorrow morning, come visit us at drroto.com, get into Discord. And by the way, we're giving away 5 days free to drroto.com. Get the all access package and just put in the promo code playoffs. 5 days free. Come see what we're about. Come see how we can help you win money in DFS, prop betting, and of course your redraft leagues. All right, for Justin and Trevor, I'm Dr. Roto saying be well and take care.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.